It's good to see you guys. Ready for this week? Had a good bye week for us. I think we had some time off and then some practice time. We had 2 really good days. Thought the energy was good. Coaches were able to get on the road on Friday and see some schools and see some games. And so a little bit different week with this being really, with Saturday really being a Monday for us in a given game week prep. But it's how it times out for our game here coming up, and fully respect and have a lot of appreciation for West Virginia and Coach Brown. I've known him for a while, and just know that the environment that we're going to be heading into is a tough one, and it'll take our best efforts. And so we're really focused on that and excited for the opportunity. With that, take any questions you guys got.
Dave, were there any specific areas you worked on this week that y'all focused on that you wanted to improve?
I think the underneath all of the, whether it's schemes or techniques, I think there's a level of immaturity or just youth that we're really working on growing. And then I think for some of our vets, there's some complacency that we're working on getting rid of and kind of waking up from. And so I think, the week was good in those respects. I think getting everybody on the same page in terms of, where we're at and what it takes to get to where we want to go. I think it was a good week for that.
Dave, how would you assess the offensive line's play to this point in the season? Obviously, you had a lot of returners there. Has that group kind of been what y'all wanted it to be?
It's probably mixed, I would say. I think it's a good question. I think, there's pieces that are around the offensive line that are different, that affect some of the outcomes of the offensive line's work. But I think if you were to extract just kind of their play and just kind of the how much violence is there, how much effort is there, how much energy is there, I think those are things that we can improve on, and we must, to get to where we want to go.
Coach, you're still looking for that first win in Morgantown. Last time you guys went there, a double overtime game. I'm sure you don't want those double overtime games after BYU. What is the kind of message going into this week, and do you think you guys can rise above the environment that Morgantown imposes?
No, appreciate that. Yeah, I think intentional practice. I think some of the, I think all of our improvement can stem from really being intentional with our work in our days. And so, knowing, why I'm in this meeting, why I'm in this individual period, why I am in this unit teach or team period, what I want to get better at, what specifically am I working on. And I think there's a be here now mindset that's way important with that. And you can kind of get caught up in just the routine of, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and that. And then you also get caught up with what just happened last game or what possibly could happen this next game. And so just to stay way focused in the moment, I think, is where, the improvement is at. And so I think it's been a big push by all of us to be way intentional with our time. So I think that's number one. Then 2 would be playing with edge. I think it was already kind of hinted at, the line of scrimmage, I think, can improve. And we have to, the edge is not after the snap, right? It's not before the snap. It's during it's having a really violent start followed with a real violent finish. And it's from the start of the play to the echo of the whistle. I think our line of scrimmage can improve with a better edge. So we're trying to practice that way.
Coach, JT Daniels was a pretty big recruit coming out of high school. What do you feel like he brings to this Mountaineer offense?
Really strong arm. Yeah, there's a command that right when you watch the tape, it jumps off the screen at you. The command that he has, there's a poise that he has, and then his arm. He can from one one hash, throw it deep out, all the other across the field and all that, and be on the money with it. And so I think it's elite, his arm strength. And, I think the offense is growing around him. There's elements of tempo in there. There's backs that there's a change of pace back. There's a kind of a reliable, tough back. And they've got a fair amount of receivers that are kind of in and out. So it's a talented offense. And with him at the helm, they're always going to be in it and always a threat to put up a lot of points.
Coach, Apu left the last game. Is he going to be available for West Virginia? What's his update status? And also with Tay McWilliams and Khalil Keith.
So Apu will be ready to play, and so he's been practicing, these past couple days, and then Tay, it's still, I think his return is still a couple weeks out. I think he's having a harder time of it than maybe some of our others. And so we're hoping to get him back here soon. It doesn't look like it's going to be for this next one. And then, Khalil? And Khalil's going to practice today. And so he'll be going through individual today. It'll be good to have Khalil back.
Dave, going back to last week, seeing a 36 next to an opponent was kind of bizarre in the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the defense is hungry to come out for not a shutout performance, but to really bounce back in a strong way?
It's a good question. I appreciate that. I think, I feel we have to teach that. Just kind of the basis of your question and kind of what it was getting to. I feel us as coaches, we have to teach that. And so we're trying to do that right now in terms of, hey, this is an expectation. Hey, when it's not met, hey, there should be something you feel in your gut. This is how you use it. Just because you use it in the week doesn't mean that it's given to you on a game day. This is what all of it means. I feel it's up to us to teach that so we can get the answer that I think we all want.
Dave, in terms of self-evaluation, even in coaching, do you do that week to week, or was this a good week to kind of look at that and go, we need to do this, that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I do that, at least I don't know. I feel like I do that. I think it's always better to have other people tell you if you're doing it or not, because I think the blind spots are real. I think for me, the complacency part is hard. It's hard to, I don't know. I think if you were to be a coach and you were to say my team is complacent, it sounds like a way negative thing. And I think despite all the best efforts of all of it, and, I think, probably bigger picture, need to find better efforts. But I think talking about what's real is way important. And I think there's an element of kind of a waking up, like here's the jersey number, here's the play, here's all of it. This is not what it is. I know you're better than this. I know that there's an edge to you. I know all of that, getting that back. And so that's been a big, big, big focus. And it's been, as far as when I look at me, I just see that with the staff. And I think this came up the other day. But, I think whether it's the youth of the team or it's kind of feeling the complacency and all of it, it's to, as a coach, to use all that and use it. And when we're not hitting the mark either way, or we're not growing the way we think we should, or we're thinking we arrived when we haven't done anything, it's using those moments to teach. And not to weaponize, and to, because I think then you're in a thing and you create another thing. And so I think there's both sides of it, because I think players are going to want to see that, hey, I didn't, here's my perspective. Oh, there's a whole other perspective. Okay. And that whole thing is easier to admit when it's being talked to by someone that you trust and knows that they care about you more as a person than a player. And then, but then I think for the coach, it's like all the anxiety and all the other things. You're not the only one that feels that, dude. Players feel that too. So it's not about just putting it off. It's about using it for good. And so, the best criticism of the bad is the practice of the better. And I think it's it takes some intentionality to do that. We're trying our best.
Dave, was it tough to see Josh Fleeks enter the transfer portal almost midway into the season?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Josh, and I want the best for him. And you see just his growth. I remember, probably one of my first, my first days in 2020, one of my first one-on-one meetings was with Josh, and just to see just how close he is to finishing off academically, and just all the work that he's put into it, and all the work that everyone here at Baylor has put into him. And so I think if you had your choice, you'd rather all of it end here and all that. But I can understand, and I see his view, and I wish him the best, and want him to be able to finish with a degree, and I want him to be able to have the opportunities that he wants.
Coach, a career day for Blake last week against Oklahoma State. Have you seen anything from him this bye week? Is he feeling a little more comfortable? What are you seeing from him?
Very businesslike, I think, very into the details and into the energy of the team. I think as we go, from 1 week to the next, there is a growth in him, and a more willingness and probably readiness to say what he feels, and I think that's way important for us. And so I think that is becoming right now.
When you have a performance coming off Oklahoma State and then you have to go into a bye week, what's more beneficial? Going into a bye week where you're going, okay, thank God we have a break here after a tough loss, or do you want to go in with momentum off a win?
It's a really good question. I think when you go off with a loss, you really have to kind of sit in it, and I think it really makes you see kind of the parts and the places and the things that you would otherwise choose not to see. And so I think it's all good, and I think using it for the good is really the other big issue. And so I think taking the time to be in the moment and really see the ugly things and the things that need fixing, which is true everywhere, not just for us, but to really hone in on that, and then to correct it, to teach it, and to do it in a way that holds an integrity with the people you're working with, and builds them up as opposed to tear them down. That's a whole other. And so that's been us, this last couple days. And so I'm proud of how we've approached it.
Dave, Christian made a couple of big plays last week. The interception, forced fumble. Are you seeing more? Is he kind of coming, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. Just had a talk with him today. I'm excited to see his energy and his confidence. I think that's probably something that has been missing in our back end, is just the confidence to do things. There's a drill. We have a red zone lockout drill, and there's a scoring system, and it's O versus D, and O scores. It's this point. So the O defense keeps them out. It's these points. I think a field goal is this points for the offense, this points for the defense. And so you try to build to get to a certain number and who wins. And so this was Thursday, and we're practicing, and Christian's out there, and he makes a big play. The ball's like on the 2 or something, and offense trying to go in, and I think it's second down. Christian makes a big play on the far end away from the defense, and the defense is kind of dead on that side, and he kind of gets them up, and all of a sudden it is way loud and energetic and all of it, and I think that's exactly what we need. And so I think the ability to kind of to inspire and do all of it the right way, and not making stuff personal in terms of motivating guys and all that, but in terms of still being yourself, though, I think is the way key for him. But excited about his play. There's been a great improvement. Excited for what's next for him.
Do you think there's more pressure coming into these Big 12 games subsequently after that loss, obviously you guys had those expectations coming into the season. Does that kind of add some weight heading into the rest of the Big 12 slate, trying to get back to Jerry World?
No, I appreciate that. I would, I would say no, and I think probably what, probably what makes up some of the question, and I can understand the question. And I think it's probably good that we're talking about this here, is that I think that is part of the issue for me, where I have to do a better job of, of dealing with what's real and working to build up the team, and whether it's the youth, that hey, we've got to be able to get through, a drill or a day or a team period or a practice or a day, just being where we need to be, doing what we need to be doing, and no point fingers, complaining, any of these other things. And then some of the older vets, last year doesn't have anything to do with this year. This is, what is on tape this year is real, right? What's in your mind from last year or some previous other thing right now is not real, right? And so you want to see real stuff, put it on tape. And so I think those are kind of the mindsets, and all of that is, I would say all of that is right in front of us and is real. And I think the expectations and all these other things can kind of cloud that picture. I don't know if I'm making sense. And so I think it's very much an issue of kind of where we're looking and how we're taking in information. And so we're hopeful that we can kind of stay the path.
Dave, West Virginia's defense looks like they're particularly good against the run.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see from them?
Really active defensive linemen, physical. They move them around. I think they're multiple, and so they'll get in different fronts with their linebackers, similar to Oklahoma State to a degree. I think they play a lot of quarters coverage, so their safeties are involved in the run as well. And then they'll pressure, so they'll bring different patterns and blitzes and things to get negative plays. And so I think it's a matter of, if you're working combos in the run game, it's difficult because this linebacker could plug, this three technique could slant, right? This secondary guy could rush off the edge. And so it's if, and, or but, right, in terms of rules. And so to make it to where you're real simple and can run off the ball and can take the incoming and push it the other way, I think is way key. And it's a challenge with them. They do a great job with it.
Dave, you mentioned Christian's confidence. Is it maybe a lack of confidence in the other guys that might be the issue in the secondary, or where do you see those guys?
I think they're growing, and I think I think sometimes when you're learning the position and all the details of it, I think sometimes your focus can be, I just want to get my day right. I want to get this play right. I want to get, this check is coming up today. I want to get this right. I want to get this man coverage right. And we're so, worried about the internal, which I think is good. But then there's almost a lack of, whether it's given energy or it's, any type of praise to the outside. And so it's kind of almost like a siloed thing. And so I think I think it's probably new I was probably that way when I first started in this job. I was like that, So I think for anyone that's new, as you're learning, it's kind of, that's generally the thing. I'm worried about messing me up, But then as you grow, I think there's a broader perspective, and you can see all the connections, and you can see how you play a part in a bigger whole. And then at that point, the energy can now move out, as it should. And I think Christian's at that spot. We got a few of the younger guys that are not there yet.
With Richard, you can go.
I was going to say, Monaray had a big game on Saturday. I think he almost clocked 23 miles per hour on the sideline. Just what benefit does that speed bring out wide?
I think he jumps off the screen. People have to game plan him. And so there's mismatches that you'll try to find, right, by formation and by down and distance and things, where you try to be able to get that speed on maybe something that's not as fast, you know. But then I think the other piece too is that defensively, you know, there'll be some form of history and some trail of evidence of, hey, when we've dealt with something like this before, we've done this, we've doubled it, right? We've clouded it, we've you know, tried to reroute it, we've, you know, whatever it is, and so then you use that and then build around it to attack the other outer pieces. And so, you know, it's a really good starting point to use to try to score some points.
A couple of things on Richard. I'm not sure if you saw the NIL deal that he got. I think that's pretty cool. You know, them offering every Reese's player in the NCAA. Can you talk about that? And then also circling back to the West Virginia's defense, how is he going to play a role in this upcoming game?
Yeah, excited for him. I think you know, a lot of stuff's happening for him fast, and it's all stuff that's earned. And he's got such a great smile about him and genuineness, and really there's almost an innocence there. You probably would not like that word, but you can't help but root for him. And so I think, you know, he's got two great parents at home. Keeps him grounded, and yeah, I think it's cool that you know, there's some opportunities coming his way. Then I think, you know, our ability to run the ball and fall forward on offense is something that can use a lot of improvement from the last game that we had. You know, I thought similar to one of the very first questions was, you know, the O-line and kind of where it's at. You know, I think, you know, the end result of it is are we moving the pile forward, right? Or are we stagnant, or, you know, are we moving back? And so we want to be able to move it forward. And when we're at our best, that's the case. And so I think, you know, he definitely plays a part in that. But I think as a collective whole, that's the goal for this one, is to improve the physicality and the finish in the run game.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.